Isso aqui, oh, é pouquinho de Brasil, iaia. Hi everybody. Today I want to talk about the sweater that I'm making for my husband and all the learnings that I have got from this, the aha moments and everything. So I've been knitting since I was 6. I made a lot of sweaters when I was a teenager. Then I stopped and I made a few sweaters for my husband, a few for me now. I like doing cables and patterns because in Brazil at the time when I started to learn, we didn't use that many patterns. I didn't, at least. I would check the person I was making the sweater for, and then I would go from there, right? The problem with that, there's a lot of undoing and doing, mainly on the sleeves. I'm basically a spinner. I like spinning more than knitting. And because of that, many times I look for a pattern, and I think it's great to work with a pattern because you learn new things. The problem is that many times the gauge doesn't work with the pattern that you're looking for. So in this case, it didn't work neither. I didn't find a pattern that would fit exactly. So I did what I used to do before. I got my husband and measured him, and I did what I did. I want to start talking about the fiber that I chose for this sweater. I started with a white alpaca and I blended it with some merino top and also a little bit of silk everywhere. The first learning was in the blend. Before I was told that I could add just a little bit of wool to the alpaca and it would be okay with elasticity. But then I met my friends right before I started spinning for the sweater, and Rosalind had just done in-depth study with alpaca blends, and she said you need to use at least 30%, tops 30% of alpaca and 70% of wool. And Michelle, that also had alpacas before, and she gave me a bunch of alpaca fleece or fiber, also said, yeah, you need more wool than alpaca. So I had a problem because I had already blended this, and in my blend I started with 80 and 20%. So I increased it, but even increasing on the blend, it gave me around maybe 40 alpaca and 60 wool tops. I would say it was more like 50-50. So I got the problem that I needed to increase the whole sweater to 70% wool and 30% alpaca. So the solution I found for this, I got the wool top and I made 2 singles out of this merino top and 1 single out of the blend that I had. The thing is, I knew that I wanted a woolen yarn because I wanted it to be very warm for my husband. So because I had the top, what I did is I took bunches of it, open it up, and then fold it like this, and I spun from here. And this is how I got a more woolen yarn out of this. The other thing is I knew I wanted to do a thick yarn, and I knew I wanted to have to do Fair Isle. And I had almost 2 kilos of this fiber. So the fiber problem of having 70% wool and 30% mohair, alpaca, was solved by doing 2 singles of merino and 1 single of alpaca. My gosh. So now I stayed with the yarn done for a longest time, and the second step was going to be to dye. So I thought, my husband has beautiful hazel eyes and green looks good on him. I measured all the yarn that I had and I took 400 on 2 skeins and another 400 and 2 skeins. I measured the exactly amount of water, the exactly amount of dye, and the amount of fiber, as well as the citric acid and also the salt. Everything was exactly the same. The only different thing was the pot. One pot was much bigger than the other. I thought that wouldn't make a difference because, you know, all the quantities were exactly the same, but it did make a difference. If you see, the color is different. Although I have to say that after, because they were, the color was different in a way that you could perceive the difference, but it was closer. So what I did is I kind of over dyed the yarn that was darker, and I did make it darker. I put more blue to the pot, and I had it darker so that there would be at least more distinctive, because they were not too distinctive, but they were distinctive enough that I couldn't use the two 400 grams together. So I increased the darkness of this. This is the other problem when you are dyeing yarn and when you are doing something like Fair Isle, because since I didn't have a pattern, there's no way for me to know how much I would need of everything. So I went ahead and I got 800 grams of the gray, and I decided that the gray would be my color, my base color, right? So I got the yarns. I got yellow last, because they always say yellow, a little bit of yellow goes a long way, and it really does. I got this beautiful red, 2 greens, 2 different kinds of greens, and gray. Like, I get bored very easily. So not having a pattern for me is good, because I could be creative. As you can see in the sweater, it is different blocks of Fair Isle that I found in different magazines, and they have just a little gray separating them. So I loved knitting this sweater because it was free. Like, I could use different things. I was not stuck to a pattern, and that worked for me very well. But I wanted to learn how to stick. So that was my second learning in this sweater, is the stick. Or better yet, I knit Portuguese style, and I knit with the wool on my neck. And with the Portuguese style, I checked some YouTubes. It's better to knit your Fair Isle on the purl, because it's easier. So as you can see, the back of the sweater looks really great, because you are seeing, and you can attach it together so you don't have many strands going around. I really like it, and it was also fast. So for me, this was the first time that I was doing that, and I'll try to show you in another video how I did it, how I knitted it. But there are lots of YouTubes there, and I watched one of them just to be sure I would get the right position. I was trying for a while to learn how to do collar work with my knitting on the neck. And normally the Portuguese style, they use pins on their clothing. That didn't work for me, so I put both on my neck, both strands on my neck on a different side, and it worked perfectly. But I have to say that on the blending, I decided that I was going just to push, and that was not a good idea, because I could cover some of them. I still have to weave some of them into the thing, but some were too short. So next time when I change colors, I will, next sweater, I will cut the yarn big, and then, because it's gonna have a better finishing on the sides. Not good enough, I wanted to do stick. So I wanted to do my first stick. And again, I watched some YouTube, and I learned how to protect the yarn with the crochet weight before you cut, right? But as you can see here, because my yarn is woolen. They say if you're going to do stick, you need woolen yarn. But I think because it was a thick yarn, it doesn't feel very safe to me. So I went ahead and I added some stitches everywhere just to be sure that I would keep it on its place. So I don't know how it's gonna look at the end. Maybe I'll put something there to cover, but I hope this will be enough to hold my stick in place. Other than that, it worked pretty good. I just cut it, and now I have to finish there. So the top of the sweater I did with short rows, and I think I can improve that if I do more short rows, but at least I didn't have to work more on short rows, but I didn't have to sew it together because I hate doing that. The sleeves I was going to do to pick up stitches, but because it feels to me so loose, maybe it's because it's the first time I do sticking, but because it's a thick yarn, it looks so loose that I thought, I'm not going to add to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the sleeves separate, and then I will do back stitch here, and this way it's going to help me keep this together because the back stitch is going to go everywhere. So I'll show it for you later when I have them done. So one of the problems that you have when you are doing when you do things like this with the dies, I thought I had enough fiber, but as you can see, I'm at the end of my fiber. So I have to be creative. And because I don't have a pattern, I can be creative. I got a class, I'll put the name of the person down for vertical strand knitting. And I really love how it works. I want to show you how fast it is. So I got some here. I'm close to the thing here. I learned how to make my butterflies. It's very easy and very nice. But look how easy and fast it is for you to do the vertical strand knitting. You just put on the back side here and then you go ahead. It's amazingly fast and you get a very nice effect. And I'm going to show you. I believe I still have to practice more, but so because I'm doing one stitch on the top of the other, I have to put on the back part, knit with the back of the stitch, pull a little bit, and it's done. So I think it's amazing how fast you do, and this is the result that you get. That I think is pretty cool. So the other part, and the reason I decided to do the video now, is because I'm working with collar strand and it's close to the end of my sleeves, I'm adding more stitches to the sleeves so that they go up here, right? And my other sleeves, I was doing the increases. It might be very simple for many knitters, but I got the problem. So if you see here, I have some holes in the yarn that I will weave together and they will disappear. But in this one, I don't have the same holes because I'm tying together, but also because of instead of increasing at the junction, I'm increasing on the last stitch, one stitch before the last. So I think this helps to get a neater effect. So for me, it's a learning thing, and it's great. I guess that was pretty much what I wanted to talk about this. I will show you the sweater when it's finished, hopefully this weekend, and let you know how it turned out. If you have any comments that might help me with all this Fair Isle technique, please let me know. Thank you. Bye. Doing the sleeves separate, I did back stitch to put them together, and that turned out pretty good. I think it's an extra safety to the stick, and because it's very there's plenty of space, even though the yarn was chunky and there was a chunky sewing together, it works still very fine. So I guess my husband is very happy. So see you next time. Bye bye. Isso aqui, oh, é pouquinho de Brasil, iaiá.